Hello out there to our friends in the financial advisory group world. Happy spring. Today is actually the first day of spring as we're filming this, and the first day of March Madness. I think I caught Ben watching games earlier today, so it's instead of working, but we're all
I have
supposed to
I
do that today. Ah, he's got
I
the
have my
bracket up.
bracket.
Right.
Michigan's going all the way.
All right, Michigan. All right. I won't give
Yeah.
my full disclosure yet because that's part of our theme today is the markets. The markets, if you haven't noticed, Ben, have been a little mad, just like what we're going through now. So we'll hold our prediction till the end of what we view of the markets and maybe my slight prediction on who will win the tournament.
Yeah.
And as
But
we move forward in the video today, one of the things we wanted to cover is we left everyone last time with this thought process of winter jackets, right? And we were talking about getting a winter jacket when the weather's nice. And we just want to reference that in some ways, what the market's going through now should have somewhat been expected. We were coming off of two amazing years. We referenced this last video in 2023 and 2024. And when you get two great back-to-back years, at some point you have to expect that the weather is going to get worse. And the best time to say, hey, maybe we should look at this and take a little off the table is not when the weather's bad, it's when the weather's nice. So just keeping that in mind that sometimes part of what's happening now is we weren't expecting this, but when we look backwards, Ben, maybe in some ways we should have been. And that's why we try to buy those winter jackets as the chart shows when the markets are higher. That way we're prepared when the weather does get cold, if you would.
yeah. Yeah, we just don't want to sell now. We'd rather sell, 4 weeks ago. So,
So it's again
yeah.
the winter jacket thought process. We like that. We've stuck with that theme throughout the year. And as we said, happy spring. The other thing that's coming to our mind, a lot of memories of we're at the 5 year anniversary of COVID. And as we think through what we're going through today, we think there's a similarity between right now and COVID. Ben wasn't here at the time, but in March of 2020, Diane and I shot our first ever video in our series. And our premise was we have no idea what's going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months in March of 2020. But we were very confident that if you gave us a 3 to 5 year time frame, the market would be at a much better place. And we wanted to own Microsoft. We wanted to own Amazon. We wanted to own Google. I think, Ben, we would same thing today. I think there's a lot of commonalities between 5 years ago, which that those weren't fun times. You don't want them to come back, and today. And I think Ben, the one word, the hot topic word, I'll let Ben bring it up. That's come up to our minds. The same thing we were thinking about then. Today is
Uncertainty. Yeah, so uncertainty is the let's say the word of the video or maybe the word of the month goes along with March Madness, but something that and we'll get into this chart then, but before I guess we get in there, uncertainty's kind of all around us right now. Anytime you have like a big shift in well, now it's the kind of the different, presidency that's coming in. We have a lot of uncertainty. Everyone's scared. As you can see in the fear and greed index, we've touched on this a long time, but this is published by, I think, CNN Business, and it's basically the sentiment, like how are investors feeling? And you can see this also leads into the last chart we were at when the market was all like at the all-time high. That was in the like October time frame. Everyone was feeling great. That's the greed that you see at the top of the chart. And now we're kind of in the peak uncertainty. So we are down all the way in extreme fear. And I guess to relate that to like how like why that is, it's kind of like, and Damien and I were kind of chatting about this before, but if I let's or Damien, if you're coaching your boys, let's say they're coaching or you're coaching them in a soccer game, uh, and you've been preparing all season, and then all of a sudden, let's say you show up for your first game and you realize it's a baseball game. What are you gonna do?
I think I'd be in a little bit of trouble. I could barely coach soccer back in the day, youth soccer. So and I think it's a great analogy of what we're going through today of whether it's tariffs on, tariffs off, what the rules are, when that happens, when the rules are changing constantly. Now, I'm not referencing myself as one of the best coach, but even the best coach, if they showed up the day of the match and the rules were changed, it freezes them. And I think that gets to our topic, Ben, as you and I have been talking about, is that's the hard part with uncertainty and changing of rules or changing of sort of the situation. If we know the rules, I can coach my kids how to play soccer. If I'm coaching them to play soccer, but we show up to play baseball, we're in trouble. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think that's part of
Yeah.
what we're going through today.
Exactly. And that kind of just transcends into like the corporate environment right now. If you're Microsoft and you're, trying to plan out your next 12, 24 months, it's really hard right now. Like one day tariffs are on, one day they're not. And even so, even if the tariffs weren't here, there's always, with every different presidency, it's a huge change. No one knows what's just talk, what's actually going to be policy. So right now, it's a little uncertain. It's hard for companies to predict how their revenues are going to shake out. And there's been high expectations. That was kind of the word of maybe the year last year, maybe the year before. Expectations have been very high, and they're still high. For the past 2, 3 years, the economy has just been on fire. So now it's kind of a weird spot where we're at. We have very high, maybe peak uncertainty, and also very high expectations. So that's kind of why we've seen some, volatility in the markets. It's just not the greatest combination per se.
And I think, as we
Um,
talked about, Ben, the economy really for the last 3 or 4 years has been fine. We'd argue freeze the economy today, right now, it's still fine. But the cushion we have of sort of barrier is getting smaller. And the issue, has been just hinted at, is if uncertainty comes in, it tends to slow down corporations in their planning because they freeze for a little bit. And that also can freeze the consumer. We're talking to some clients who are now saying, yeah, I'm pulling back a little bit, right? I'm going to change some of my spending habits. So that uncertainty can freeze people. But let's go back to that sports analogy, right? That once the coach knows the rules, game on. You give the best coach in the world and you tell him what the rules are, just like during COVID, at some point the rules are going to flatten out and we're going to figure this out and then we'll be good. We just have to get there at some point. The uncertain part is that risky part. And that's what we just have to hope that's as short as possible.
yeah, and we have a good chart that kind of shows this. I mean, it's hard for to understand as an investor, but sometimes the best time to buy is when everyone thinks the world's ending. So you can see these are pretty much all of the worst case scenarios. COVID happened, sovereign debt crisis, you name it, global. Like no one thought the economy was coming back after 2008, but it did. So it just reaffirms that even though it's really uncertain right now, it might be, and historically over the long term, like we said earlier, it will be a good buying opportunity. We just don't know how the next, 12 months will shake out.
And I think, Ben, that's if we wait for the weather to be perfect, it's too late. And the craziness of this chart is I'm not sure in the last 25 years you could pick four better times to buy stocks. Think about buying stocks in late 2001, again, during the tech wreck. Think about buying it in late 2008, early 2009 during the financial crisis. Think about doing it during the sovereign debt crisis in the mid 2010 to 2015, and then go back to COVID. Four of the best buying opportunities, but they happened at the most uncertain times. Well, times are uncertain. It's just hard to sort of pull that trigger sometimes.
Yeah. But the good thing that all comes from this uncertain times, it's also a great time for, the portfolio to maybe act a little different than you're normally used to. So with, what's been going on the past 3 years, all we've seen is just US equities, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia just go up and up and up. So we're actually
Are we
seeing.
sick of talking about the Mag 7 yet, Ben?
Yeah, we won't mention the Mag 7. They're not doing too hot. But so in times of uncertainty, that's also usually when we see different things acting a little bit different. So our bonds are acting like bonds. You can see the green is bonds. Those, that's exactly what we want from them, almost a straight line. The two that we won't speak about, maybe the purple one, maybe, but the QQQs, that's all your tech companies. You can think of that kind of as a more diversified Mag 7, but regardless, those are down. What we're seeing now is people losing a little confidence in the US, so they're sprinkling their cash to the international market. So we hinted at it a little in the last video, but international still going strong. So a lot of our clients are kind of surprised that their portfolio, even with all the headlines, their portfolios are still doing pretty well just because international is kind of going when US isn't. So
And
we'll see where
it's a
that ends
great, this
up.
chart, as you show, Ben, is from the beginning of the year till now, so almost 3 months in. And the important part is we always say this, if every part of your portfolio is going in the same direction on every day, yes, that's great when it's going up, but look out. We actually love this chart. This chart gives us confidence every day. It's probably the thing Ben and I have talked most about this year. We sent emails back and forth if it's actually working. So it's a great thing. And I think it leads us into sort of, so what does all this mean, right? This uncertainty's out there. Um, what's the positives from the uncertainty? One is it can create opportunities, just like the buying opportunities of the last, 25 years. The hard part is the best opportunities are created when things are the most uncertain. So be prepared, which that's what the winter jacket is there for, but also to make sure when those uncertain times come in, you own diversifying things and make sure you just don't get distracted by the news of the day. We found a great picture from back almost exactly 5 years ago to the day. I think this picture sums it all up. That this is a picture, if everyone doesn't know the gentleman on the screen right here, that's Jim Cramer, Mad Jim Cramer, Crazy Jim Cramer. He's entertaining as can be if you haven't watched him. But all focused down here on this part below, and Ben will take us through the part up top. This is in March of 2020. At that point in time, in the last 3 weeks of March of 2020, over 16 million. I want you to remember that number. 16 million Americans lost their job. Talk about uncertainty. At that point in time, we were more afraid of the economic output for the next 3, 6 months as we've ever been before. Ben, why don't you take us through what the top says there?
Yeah, so this is why we're in March Madness. And we've hinted at it before. I think we said the market lives on a different planet. So we have terrible headlines, peak uncertainty, but at the same time, in the background of that blurb that Damien just read, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, posted its best week since 1938. So it's truly you never know what's going to happen. The next week we could have blazing hot economy or markets again. We never know. So in the long term, just stay invested and always go back to the trusting your financial plan. In the short term, try to ignore those headlines, ignore the ones about everyone losing their job, and just trust the markets.
And I think to end this up, it's a back to the March Madness predictions. I think our prediction is uncertainty is normal. Uncertainty is part of the case. And one of our favorite quotes from an economist at JP Morgan by the name of David Kelly says, we need to invest and focus on things that are invest based off what's probable, not what's possible. When things get uncertain like this, our mind goes through all the possibilities that can happen. Our job is to focus on what's probably going to happen. So, in the markets, we're going to be okay, right? Are there possibilities that this could get worse? Sure, but let's be prepared. And when that brings me back to my market prediction, right? We loved, or the March Madness prediction. It's great doing all these crazy upsets, and this team's going to beat this team, and this team's going to beat that team. That's the possibilities. I'll go by probabilities. I like statistics. I'm also a Duke fan, full confession. So I'll go with the probability that everyone's predicting. I'll go with Duke as my national champion. I guess I'm out on the record saying it. So I have Duke. Ben, I think you said Michigan.
I'm going Michigan. I have let's see, I have Wisconsin versus Michigan in the championship, and I'm going Michigan.
It's
So
like the all Midwest championship of Wisconsin versus Michigan. I like it.
yeah, so if you made it this far in the video, make sure in the comments tell us what your March Madness prediction is, and we'll see who's right.
But again,
And
thank you for all the trust and confidence. We look for this was rapid fire number 5. We're getting up to number 5 at this point. We appreciate you sticking with us watching. We know it's uncertain times, but again, let's focus on the plan and focus on the probabilities out there. Have an awesome spring. Days are getting longer, sun's out more. Enjoy your time.